Salam Larsh. Did I say that right? I don't know. I tried. How's it going, everybody? My name's Defi Dave. I'm the head of growth of CAP, which is a new stablecoin, and I'm here to present Type 3 stablecoins. So in this presentation, I want to make it clear we are not talking about payment stablecoins such as Tether and USDC. These more focus on settlement and distribution. In this presentation, we're going to talk about yield-bearing stablecoins. So think Athena, think Mai, think Frax, and of course, think CAP. So to provide more context, how yield-bearing stablecoins think about their priorities today to users are in three ways. First, they prioritize delivering a minimum promise value to users, which is delivering yield. Second, it's about competing with alternatives on that yield. And third is protecting users. Now, in the Type 3 stablecoin framework, we want to actually switch up these priorities and actually put protecting users first. So I believe there's a stablecoin social contract between issuers and holders. And in this contract, it is the issuer's duty to make sure that their stablecoin is always redeemable for collateral and remain pegged. That is the most important thing for a stablecoin can do. After that, I like to think of this as like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So first, you take care of the safety, then you can move on to the action. And then you can worry about delivering that minimum promise value of yield. And after that, you compete with alternatives. Hold on. And now, with that all taken care of, how can stablecoins build in order to fulfill that list? And I believe we can do that in this Type 3 stablecoin framework. And so the Type 3 stablecoin framework is a way to conceptualize stablecoins to execute on their promises to holders. As you can see, there are 4 different types of stablecoins. And before we get into the other 3, we're going to go into Type 0. And I want to make it clear that there's a line that goes from endogenous to exogenous. It goes down the line. And so Type 0 are just endogenous stablecoins. Vitalik likes to call these the Ouroboros of crypto. It's a snake eating its own tail. And why? Because their usage is completely tied to their own platform. Their growth is tied to usage of their own platform. So think CDPs, which are tied to leverage. Think AMOs, which are tied to other ecosystems, such as CRV or Arrow. They're limited in their growth, and these don't scale. And that's why we haven't seen any major stablecoins above 500 million in TVL that follow this model. Let's see. There we go. Type 1 to Type 3 stablecoins promise exogenous yield. So these are stablecoins where the yield comes outside of their platform rather from within. The way to break these down is how does each stablecoin in each type deliver on their promise? Is it a team delivering on that promise? Is it a DAO delivering on that promise? Or is it a smart contract delivering on that promise? It matters. This framework itself was really inspired by Shriram Kannan of EigenLayer, who asked the question, how can we offer more robust guarantees to users based on how decisions are made by the protocol? And so why does this all matter? This matters because if you don't know how protocols are delivering on their promises, then you can't assess the risk. Time and time again, we've seen charismatic individuals come in and take advantage of people who just don't know any better. We aren't going to build a better system than TradFi if we're just copying TradFi. True DeFi is about building a system based on immutable rules instead of faulty promises, which is exactly what Type 3 stablecoins like CAP are about. But before we get to Type 3, let's go to Type 1 first. And so Type 1 stablecoins, these are authoritarian exogenous yield. And I just use authoritarian in the descriptive sense. I like to call these single team, single strategy. So it's usually a team that decide on one strategy. Usually it's like T-bills or the basis trade. But usually these don't usually scale. And their custody is handled by themselves or a third party. And so what are the pros? Well, they're simple. There's just one strategy to understand. And there's a lot of user agency with them, so users can deposit and withdraw quite easily. The cons is there's no recourse if something goes wrong. If the coin gets depegged or something happens, as an individual, there's very little they can do to take action against the stablecoin. And obsolescence and underperformance. A strategy can only have alpha for so long. For example, with T-bills, a few years ago, everybody was all the rage about T-bills, especially in the bear market. But when things took a turn, these T-bills just became a worse version of Tether. And yeah, right now interest rates are high, but what happens when they go lower? No one's really going to care about these T-bill stablecoins anymore. And so how do we evolve from here? So next we have type 2 stablecoins, and these are by DAO, group, or community. They're the ones executing the strategies, and they actually outsource it to external parties. So it's multiple strategies happening here, but at the same time, these are third parties. So the same thing as type 1 in that respect. And so the pros is these are a lot more scalable than type 1 because they're doing multiple strategies. The latency is much lower because they can adjust strategies faster, and there's collective enforcement here. So instead of just a few people deciding, it's usually have like a group of 100 people. So it's a lot easier to have checks on what's going on. The cons, again, there's no recourse. So if something happens and something goes wrong, there's very little an individual can do in that regard. And the second is DAO or group corruption. So humans are infallible. They're prone to conflict of interest. If there's an external party that really wants access to a DAO, they can just go ahead and bribe the delegates within it. So people are infallible. And so what can we do from here? With type 3 stablecoins, instead of relying on people, how can we harness the power of efficient markets to outsource yield generation to external parties while still protecting users? This is where type 3 stablecoins come in, which are self-enforcing exogenous systems. By self-enforcing, I mean we have an immutable set of rules enshrined in a smart contract that decides where capital flows. This is much more akin to Bitcoin or Ethereum, where participants abide by rules of the protocol. If they don't, they get penalized. This is what I mean by being better than TradFi, by building like Ethereum and not just because of it. By building like Ethereum means assuming maliciousness of parties, and as the saying goes, don't trust, verify. So what are the pros here? These are much more scalable because there's many strategies at play. Because remember, the yield generation is outsourced and self-selected to the highest performer. Again, low latency. Self-enforcing markets autonomously allocate capital to the highest performers. And there's robust enforcement here. There's no waiting on people to make decisions. It's smart contracts that do that job. And then you decide which actors are contributing to the system and which actors aren't. So what are the cons? User agency. We don't believe users should decide where to put their money. They just don't have the skill or expertise to. And higher complexity. It's more complex because this isn't just a single wrapper of a hedge fund or a single strategy. This is much more like a blockchain where there's an objective set of rules that determines the rewards or penalties of various actors. And I like to end this with a few words. Code over custody, protocols over promises, and that's what type 3 stablecoins are all about, and that's what we're building at Cap Money. So thank you. And yep. If you have any questions, feel free.
Just 1 second. Sorry, I made you walk. Thank you so much, Dave, and welcome to Istanbul. My question is simple. I just wanted to ask, where does the yield come from?
Yes. So the yield for type 3 stablecoins like Cap are outsourced to third parties, and these are market makers and trading shops. And so in Cap's system, these market makers, you can go on our website, you can see our operators. These are regulated Wall Street firms. So think IMC Trading, think Susquehanna, think Flow Traders. And all their strategies are basically guaranteed and underwritten by restakers. And so it's instead of stablecoin holders taking the risk, which we've seen time and time again, they're left holding the bag, it's the restakers that take the risk on the activities of the operator. So it's the operators that are generating yield.
I'm sorry for asking a second question.
Yeah.
How are they incentivized to keep the yield high enough?
How are they incentivized to keep the yield high enough?
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean by that? Like how they incentivized to like go back into the system, or?
Yeah, I mean like they're external parties, right? They're not Cap. They're
yes,
not users.
So,
they're not part of the community.
So for the operators in our system, they have no cost of capital when accessing our system because they receive a delegation from the restaker. So that delegation acts as collateral, and they don't have to put up any capital themselves. So it's in their favor to act in their best interest in order to keep accessing the system. Because at the end of the day, these operators, these market makers are trying to grow their book. They're trying to grow their AUM. And CAP is a very efficient tool for that bottom line.
I see. I see. Thank you so much.
Any more questions from the audience? If not, I have a question as well. Yeah, okay.
Generally speaking, like, who is your target audience? Like, who you want to target with that? Like, and how are you going to compete with the likes of USD, SUSD, like all this, like, stablecoins, Resolve, for example, you know, like they have already taken certain market share and, you know, to get...
Well, I don't really view them as competitors. If anything, I can see them accessing our system. Because remember, these operators are doing a bunch of different strategies. So the basis trade is just one strategy. So in theory, Athena can come in and access their system and provide a better rate for their users. I have a lot of respect for Athena. You know, they've been able to grow to their size and democratize the basis trade, and honestly, a lot of inspiration. But I believe CAP is a better system, and you know, our target audience is very similar. I guess it's like people in DeFi, degens on one side, then you have institutions and larger funds on the other. And so anybody looking for yield on chain, and I think the key to success there, it's not just talking to the users themselves, but also third parties, so wallets, exchanges. There's plenty of different ways to grow.
Okay, we had one here first.
Hi. I want to ask about clarifying the difference between stage 2 and stage 3.
Yeah.
So the first sounded like stage 3 is all managed by a smart contract. But then now on the question you say you have external partners managing the yield. So that is then the same as in stage 2, right? So where is the difference? Yes.
So the key difference is in type 2 stablecoins, you have people deciding deciding the strategy and who gets the capital. In type 3 stablecoins, you have a market deciding. You basically have these borrowers competing for the capital. So I like to think of it as kind of similar to how Bitcoin mining works with the Bitcoin difficulty. They have to go up to that standard. In the CAP protocol, it's called the hurdle rate, which is basically the rate in which the lending rate is at. And so operators have to beat the hurdle rate in order to access the system. So instead of people deciding like, oh, you get the capital, it's like, no, the operators have to beat the hurdle rate in order to access the capital.
Okay, but you're still relying on, you don't trust the smart contract only, you also have to trust the external partners.
Yes, so in CAP system, let's say, here's where the smart contracts come in. Let's say like the operator runs off with the money. The restaker gets penalized and slashed, because remember, it's the restaker that vouches for them in order to access the system.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. The other question was answered. A quick question. So I've heard that Amazon and many other companies will start to have their own stablecoins. Where would they fall in your categories?
I could see them being used as collateral. So right now, we have USDC as their collateral. We'll soon have PYUSD. Also, money market stablecoins like Benji, Biddle, all that stuff. And so I see all these other stablecoins coming out could be used as collateral in the CAP system. Like I said, CAP is a yield-bearing stablecoin on top of this payment stablecoin layer.
Okay. Thank you very much for the interesting talk.
And one more thing. So CAP, we just launched, and we're running our CAPS program now. So if anybody has stables lying around and want to earn CAPS, you can go to cap.app/swap, earn some CAPS today. Or if you just want real yield, you can stake for stake CUSD. If you have any questions, I'm around. Feel free to say hi. And yeah, thank you for having me.